There is a popular story about the ancient Maya. It says that after centuries of building towering pyramids and mapping the stars, they simply abandoned their cities and were swallowed by the rainforest, leaving behind empty ruins and an unsolved mystery. But that timeline is a myth. When Spanish ships first arrived on the coast of Central America in the 1500s, they found millions of Maya people living in thriving city-states. The final independent Maya capital, Nojpeten, held out against European invaders until 1697. The true mystery of the Maya lies much earlier, and it comes from within. Long before Europeans crossed the Atlantic, this civilization engineered a golden age in one of the most punishing tropical environments on Earth, only to watch their own political core violently shatter. The Maya population endured. However, the foundational political system of the divine kings suffered a total and irreversible failure. To understand how that system broke, we have to look at how it was built. Around 1100 BC, early Maya communities operated as egalitarian farmers. They worked collectively to construct massive earthen platforms, monumental community projects that forged a shared regional identity without a single ruler directing them. Archaeologists see the shift first in the buildings. By 600 BC, the massive shared platforms were being overlooked by the first private stone residences for an emerging elite. This transition to ascribed inequality meant high status was no longer earned through community merit, but inherited at birth by specific families. This new elite elevated themselves to the status of divine kings. These monarchs asserted they were a direct bloodline to the gods, serving as the sole mediators between the mortal world and the supernatural realm. This codex exemplifies the sophisticated Maya script used by the elite to anchor their power to complex mathematics. Beneath the illustrations lie specific astronomical tracking tables. By mapping precise cycles of Venus, the Sun, and the Moon, kings demonstrated dominion over the natural world. The divine kings utilized their mastery of writing and science to anchor their political mandate to the cosmos, claiming authority over the very progression of time. By 750 AD, that claim to absolute power had built a sprawling network of over 5,000 interlocking city-states. The Maya lowlands became one of the most densely populated regions on the planet. The city of Tikal stood as the ultimate symbol of this dominance. It was a bustling urban center, home to roughly 100,000 citizens, where the royal palaces towered over the surrounding jungle. Erecting structures this massive required serious engineering. Maya architects didn't use keystone arches. Instead, they built rigid, cellular stone foundations deep underground, distributing the crushing weight of 70-meter limestone pyramids safely into the earth. Behind this architectural beauty was a brutal political theater. Order was maintained through constant, deliberate violence. Kings engaged in personal bloodletting rituals and launched targeted military raids entirely designed to capture and sacrifice high-status rivals. It was a strict social contract. The commoners provided immense labor and absolute obedience. In exchange, the divine king guaranteed the survival of the city by using his supernatural influence to bring the seasonal rains and secure the corn harvest. The entire political structure of the classic Maya depended on a fragile promise that the man on the throne could successfully command the weather. That promise was tested by an uncontrollable external threat. Beginning in the 8th century, a severe, multi-generational drought gripped the Mesoamerican region. Precipitation plummeted by as much as 50%. The reservoirs dried up, and the crops began to fail. This created an immediate political crisis for the divine kings. The men claiming to control the sky were suddenly failing in their single most important duty. Facing starvation and growing unrest, the elite panicked. Their solution was to double down on the very theater that gave them power. They initiated massive new construction projects and accelerated human sacrifices to appease the silent gods. But their ambition contained a fatal engineering flaw. To coat their towering new pyramids in smooth white limestone plaster, the Maya had to fall. As the kilns burned hotter, the exponential rise in deforestation triggered a localized climate disaster. Stripping the trees removed the moisture from the soil, irreversibly crippling the local rain cycle and driving precipitation down even further. In a desperate attempt to maintain the illusion of their own godhood, the kings literally burned their civilization's life support system. The reality on the ground became visceral and desperate. A starving, malnourished population was forced to watch as their supposedly omnipotent rulers performed increasingly lavish ceremonies that yielded absolutely no rain. The social contract snapped. Citizens realized the divine bloodline was a fiction. They stopped paying tribute, abandoned the vast agricultural terraces, and refused to labor for kings who could no longer feed them. The central lowlands fractured violently. Throughout the 8th and 10th centuries, former allies turned on each other. Endemic, bitter warfare tore through the region as desperate lords fought over whatever resources remained. Ultimately, the masses committed the final act of rebellion. They stopped fighting for the dying cities, packed up their belongings, and simply walked away, leaving the grand capitals of the south to be reclaimed by the forest. The jungle reclaimed the monuments and the status of the absolute monarchs, marking the end of the divine king institution, even as the Maya people themselves survived. The population survived by strategically migrating north, shifting their civilization to the sun-baked, water-rich cenotes, natural limestone sinkholes, of the Yucatan Peninsula. In this new landscape, they forced a political evolution. The failed absolute monarchs were replaced. In resilient new cities like Chichen Itza, power was shared among ruling councils formed from elite lineages, creating a more stable, decentralized society. This decentralized structure made them incredibly difficult to conquer. When Spanish forces arrived, there was no single emperor to capture. The Maya mounted a fierce, grueling resistance that held the invaders at bay for well over a century. Their legacy is written in the present day. There are over 7 million descendants of this ancient civilization alive today. They still weave traditional textiles, farm the land, and speak more than 28 surviving Mayan languages across Central America. Absolute power is a fragile illusion, easily shattered by the harsh realities of nature. But the resilience of a people, adapting and carrying their culture forward, can outlast the end of their own world.